Hi, everyone. I'm going to start things off with a happy birthday to my adopted home state of South Carolina, a place I truly wish I had the privilege of being born in. The it's been a really interesting day, a lot of ups and downs and things like that. And I'll tell you what was really great to see was the Trump rally in the Bronx. New York City gave Trump a permit, and the campaign's estimate was that they would see maybe 3,500 people there, rough estimate. Estimates now are between 30 and 35,000, so 10 times Trump's people's estimate. Big day. I Trump really showed affection for his hometown today. He's been very critical of New York City, but of the people who ran it, and he knows there's good in it. I'm amazed he can see it because I can tell you it was what the sight I seen when I went there for a convention a year or so ago was really really bad. And I have a friend, that, not really a friend, or an acquaintance that works for a Spanish language television network up there, and he's telling me it's only gotten worse since I was up there. So it's bad. Trump has done a lot for New York City. People have no idea. The people up there in New York City all wanted a piece of Trump. They all wanted to be around Trump. They all wanted to be Trump up until the point that Trump ran for president as a Republican. There's pictures of him cutting a ribbon at a rec center that he built in Harlem. And who's standing right next to him but Al frickin' Sharpton? There is it's unreal. They loved him. The Clintons loved him. They were all his friend. He was a big man, a big and important part of New York City until he came down that escalator and said he was running as a Republican for the presidency of the United States. And then the claws came out. Now, some of the altruistic stuff that Trump has done through the years in New York City. He took over the failed construction of an ice skating rink in Central Park. 26 million spent over it over between 20 years. $26 million spent on it, and it was an epic failure. He tore it. He took over the construction of it, and bulk of the construction was the work was demolition, according to what he said on his speech. Had it done in a year, and all he asked for it was them to put his name on it, and they couldn't even leave that. There was a court fight over that after he became president. The golf course in the Bronx, Jack Nicklaus designed golf course. Another thing that the corruption in the construction industry is unreal up in New York. Between the unions and the mob. The mob is still up in New York. Don't let anybody fool you. They just are more into the white collar shit. But there's still corruption up in New York. New York is New York State's one of the most corrupt states in the country, with the exception of Pennsylvania. He built a golf course there in New York. Took over the construction. It was they were working on it for 30 years. 30 years for a golf course. I mean, really? Well, he took it over. It was done in two. It's right there along the East River, in the Bronx. What else has he done? The rec center in Harlem, the Javits Center. Javits Center took his company only took over the construction engineering part of the Javits Center. It was behind schedule. It was over budget. I remember hearing when I used to have to go up to New York for work, I'd have 1010 wins on and all the corruption and people being indicted and all this stuff in relation to the construction of the Javits Center. And people were wondering if the place was ever going to get finished. And Trump's company took over. I left the freaking closet open again. Trump's company took over the construction management part of that job. And it was finished. It got finished. Then the Grand Central Terminal renovations, the New York Hilton, all that stuff Trump mentioned in his speech. But what he didn't talk about, and he could have a bone to pick, because all the stuff he did for New York when he lived in New York, and I understand it wasn't just the tax situation that he moved out of New York. He was hurt. He would never admit this, but he was hurt because he gave so much to that city and he built so much in that city. And they spit in his face. It was the second big slight because he wanted to rebuild the Twin Towers. And he wanted to rebuild them bigger and better. Not de Blasio, but the other asshole, guy with the Business Network TV shows and stuff like that. The guy who came in after Giuliani. Sorry, I can't remember. It's part of the head problem. All right. Anyways, Governor Cuomo and Mayor de Blasio during COVID, they were bitching about so much resources we needed this, we need that, because people are dying in hallways, and it was all made up stories. Trump, they said they needed hospital beds. Trump got them 1,000 hospital beds on the USNS Comfort. Trump got them hospital beds at the Javits Center. 2,500 hospital beds at the Javits Center. He picked up the phone because they still said they needed hospital beds. He picked up the phone and called Franklin Graham and said, "Hey, you have that portable hospital of yours that in Samaritan's Purse. Could you set that up in Central Park?" And they set it up in Central Park. And can you believe, in the middle of all this, that they're crying about needing beds, that after Samaritan Purse had that whole thing set up in Central Park, that the politicians, the Democrat politicians, wanted it removed because it was a religious organization setting up a hospital, a charitable hospital, on city property. Oh, getting back to the Javits Center thing, that was the Army Corps of Engineers that turned the Javits Center, that Trump sent, turned the Javits Center into that 2,500 bed hospital. What else did they cry about? We need ventilators. We need ventilators. We need ventilators. Okay. I guess Cuomo was too busy, sexually harassing state troopers and stuff like that to realize what was going on. They said, we need ventilators. Okay. Trump sent 8,555 ventilators to the state of New York at a cost of $166 million. They didn't need a third of them. And there were places around the country that could have used them. And the Cuomo administration hoarded them. and then let COVID infected senior citizens get readmitted into their nursing homes, and thousands of people died in their bed in nursing homes. Or hundreds, maybe. Hundreds. I don't know if it's hundreds or thousands. In New York, I know New York had a hell of a lot of people dying in nursing homes, and I don't want to be accused of embellishing the number. So, just want to let you know that. Trump also sent 1,179 x-ray machines to New York at the cost of $87 million. People are saying about how Trump ran up the deficit when Trump was in office the 4 years. This, on my screen over here, is what that ran up the deficit when Trump was in the office, was COVID. COVID ran it up and ran it up, because this is just one of 50 states that were crying for everything. Everything that Cuomo would cry for one day, Wolf would be crying for the next. And any kind of draconian measures Cuomo would do, Wolf would copy it the next day. Cuomo stopped letting us having he had the infected people readmitted in the nursing homes. Wolf did the same thing. Wolf, during that whole thing, was making. That's the other thing. Wolf was making money off of COVID. His friends were making money off of it. That's the other thing. That was in Pennsylvania. Now, how did Cuomo and De Blasio thank Trump for all his help? Well, first of all, none of those hospital beds were used. Very few of them they could have gotten by without the 3,500, 4,000 beds that Trump got them. They could have gotten by without them, because there was very few used. I think 2 or 3 patients were seen on the Comfort out of 1,000 beds. How'd they record him? They lied. They lied about him. They lied about him providing things for them. They lied about a lot of stuff. They lied about the PPE not coming fast enough. They lied about all that. And I'll get to the PPE in a little bit. They had fake pictures of women bringing in their own stuff from home as PPE, and all these fake pictures of these women that weren't even healthcare workers, and they were claiming they worked at this one hospital in Queens, and the people in Queens says, we don't even know who these women are. Hospital pictures of overcrowded hospitals with patients on gurneys and beds in the hallway. And somebody had a keen eye, noticed something. Well, you know what? I don't think we have beds like that in our hospitals here in New York, or anywhere else in the United States for that matter. So the pictures were examined. Turned out they were in Italy. All the signage in the photograph was in Italian. So, fake picture, fake news, lying bastards. After Trump provides all this stuff for them. Here's the one that I want to talk about, PPE. 2 aldermen were aware of a large cache of PPE being delivered to certain specific hospitals. And they decided they were going to have a heist. So they got involved with the hospitals, with staff from some of the hospitals, and even themselves disguised as staff from the hospitals, and stole all the PPE from 2 hospitals. And they were selling it and getting rich off of it on Amazon and eBay. And the FBI became aware of it. The FBI actually raided this place. All this was being done out of an apartment in Brooklyn, and they had an entire apartment that was being used as a warehouse for PPE, and they were selling it. They were selling it on the street. They were selling it online, and this was actually the plot was actually came up by two Democrat lawmakers in the city government. I guess they call them aldermen. Yeah, yeah, it's amazing, you know. But now New York is wrapping their arms around Trump. They're wrapping their arms around tight because they know that Trump is going to pull them out of what's going on in their city and in their country. I don't think Trump is a man to make blind promises. His record for fulfilling promises as a politician is pretty damn good, if you ask me. I mean, he got a big chunk of that wall done. It would be done right now if they wouldn't have stolen the election from him. And yes, I said it. They stole that election from him, and I challenge anybody to prove me wrong. I could just show him with the antics that went on in Pennsylvania that election was stolen. Just Pennsylvania. And there was fraud in Pennsylvania, there was fraud in Georgia, there was fraud in Michigan, and there was fraud in Arizona. When you suppress the vote by not having printer cartridges to print out ballots in key Republican precincts in Maricopa County, that's called election tampering. That's called suppression of vote. When you pull suitcases out from under a table and they're filled with ballots like they did in Georgia, that's suppressing the vote. That's voter fraud. When you have more votes cast than you have registered voters in your elections, that's voter fraud. And that's what happened in Philadelphia and Detroit, Pittsburgh. That's voter fraud. Okay, Trump. I honestly think Trump has things so wrapped up at this point that no amount of cheating is going to steal this election from him. I think the Republican Party has become very unified behind him. Tricky Nikki came out yesterday and said she's voting for him. Somehow I think she thinks she's going to end up in a VP spot. I don't think so. There's three people that I would really that I like amongst the people. I used to be a big fan of Kristi Noem. All the fake stuff she wrote in the book made her look like Joe Biden with all his tall tales, and so Kristi lost me. And Tim Scott, Ted Cruz, and Byron. Those are the three I like. But Byron, I don't think it would work out because Trump is a Florida resident, and so is Byron, and Byron is not going to move, and neither is he. And you can't have electorally; they can't be from the same state. So Ted or Tim, preferably Tim. Tim's a good balance. He's a strong man, but he's quiet. He's a quiet, honorable man. But he's a strong man. He's not a quiet man and a wimp like George Herbert Walker Bush was, or I feel confident with those two, with them. At that point, I'm going to cut myself off. I'm almost 20 minutes in. I promised I'm going to shorten these videos. Last week, I think it was almost an hour. So stay safe, God bless, and happy birthday to South Carolina.